Hello and welcome to Elite Dangerous Survivor. My name is Nathaniel Page and I hope to be the author of this gamebook with your help of course through Kickstarter. This is the first of my video diaries, and in this one I'd like to talk about gamebooks in general, how they work, how they're different from novels, and then I'll show you one that I've previously written, and then finally I'll give you my first thoughts about how Survivor might work. Now for those of you who haven't come across a gamebook before, this isn't the same thing as a novel. Now, in a novel, you start on page 1, you then turn to page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, and so on. You read your way through the book in a very linear fashion until you get to the end, and every time you read a novel, it's the same story, it finishes in the same way, you know what's going to happen. Game books are very different. Um, in a game book, you ask the reader make the decisions on how the story itself is going to develop. So the book will ask you to make these decisions on what will happen next, and so because of that, there's many different endings. Some of which will be more or less satisfying than others to the reader. Some of them ending in death because you make the wrong decisions. You get yourself blown to smithereens through attacking some space station when all you've got is a clapped out Cobra Mark III. Others will be far more satisfying where you're victorious, you're the hero, everybody loves you, to exaggerate somewhat. There are role-playing elements involved in the game books. They're generally written in the second person. So, for example, the book will say, you must decide, do you want to stay and retreat? Do you want to fight the oncoming anaconda? Or do you wish to talk your way out, bluff the situation, and so on? But the actions that you take, or the decisions that you take, are impacting on a character in the book, and that character's status and skills and belongings and so on, you need to keep a record of, either through the old-fashioned pen and paper, or hopefully through a more developed app. Just something I'm thinking about. It's not a promise at this point. Um, and then in this way, it's sort of a halfway house between a novel and a video role-playing game, or a tabletop Dungeons and Dragons game, in which there's a character with things that's going on. You need to use items that you find, and so on. So essentially, I'm acting as the dungeon master in a role-playing game. But I've written out all the possible options in the book beforehand, and you've got to try to work your way through the book. So it's a lot more interesting than a novel, but it's the story, which is obviously what's most important in a novel, while still important in a game book, is not the only thing that you're doing. It's also logic puzzles, and you need to think your way through a situation, and that's why I like it. I like that side of it as well. That's why I like game books. Now, a common mechanism that you have in a game book, and this is where I will show you one that I've written previously, is page numbers or paragraph numbers. So here I'm at the start of a book which I wrote some time ago called Horror of Crag and Rock. Page 1 you can see at the top, and it starts off by saying, 2 days ago a breathless messenger arrived at your village from Willow with news about, and then I better not say anything else because obviously this is copyrighted material because this is fan fiction. If you scroll down to the end of the section, you see at the base of the hill between you and the town is a great lake. You will have to go around the lake in order to reach the town, but as you know means of crossing the water, you need to go one side or the other. So you can see that you're making a decision here around which way to go. So on the east side, and this is where the book explains to you and tries to build the picture so that you can build it in your head, in your imagination. On the east side is the edge of a forest. This may offer some protection in case you are threatened, but it may also hide thieves or wild animals who would attack you. So it's giving you an idea of the options that might take place. This is obviously not how Survivor is going to be written. Survivor will be written in space. It's not a medieval fantasy game. But this is the only. I obviously haven't written Survivor yet. I've only got this one to show you. The west side of the lake is barren and rocky and could mean slow progress. So will you go to the east of the lake, turn to 192, or turn to the western side, turn to 78? So those numbers refer to page numbers here. And in an ebook, it's very easy because you can just click on where you want to go to. So I'm going to go to the east of the lake and turn to 192. If it was a paper book, you need to physically move to that particular section. So if I turn to 192, 192 now continues the story from paragraph 1. So you decide to travel to the town, keeping the lake to your left. The sun is still fairly low, blah 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 blah, and the story has then progressed in a particular way. But if I'd chosen not to turn to 192, if I hadn't wanted to travel with that side of the lake, I instead go to the western side. And if I go to the western side, the story progresses in a very different way. So this time, keeping the lake to the right, you walk briskly down the hill, although it's a fair summer's day, blah 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 blah. And you can see I've now come across some. Go here, I've come across some half elves who have come out from this forest. So by choosing to go on the side of the lake that had the forest rather than the rocks, I've actually had what's called an encounter in the book, and I've now got to decide what to do with these half elves. So do I want to approach them and attempt to start a conversation? Well, that's going to depend on whether or not you think half elves are an enemy that you want to talk to. Imagine that as pirates attacking. So do you want to talk to the pirates? Do you want to power up your weapons and fight them, or do you want to hide and hyperspace out, or fly behind an asteroid, or whatever I choose to do in Survivor? So let's say that I want to fight these half elves. I don't want to talk to them. I'm not a coward. I'm not going to hide. I'm actually going to start a fight. So I'll now turn to paragraph or page 314, and I've got some details about the strengths of these half elves. Now, according to the rules of the game, which the instructions are shown in a separate section at the beginning of the book, the battle will now progress. It'll be done with dice and so forth until hopefully you're victorious. Now, obviously, in Survivor, that will be spaceships and lasers and missiles and ECM systems, rather than here skill and stamina and medieval type fantasy worlds with swords and longbows and whatever. But the basic idea is quite similar. I hope to make Survivor quite a free book in terms of the options that you take won't be particularly prescriptive. So at the start of the book, you'll be able to choose whether or not you want to concentrate on trading, whether you want to concentrate on fighting, possibly start a military career, maybe be a mercenary. There'll be quite a wide range of options that you can take. And that's where the decisions are going to come in, because some of those options will be harder to do than others, particularly if you'll start off quite poor in the book. In fact, my intent is that the game book will start off with the same sort of things that you start off with in original Elite, so a clapped out Cobra Mark III with basically a pulse laser and about 100 credits. Probably a stolen Cobra Mark III. But you'll start off with very little. So if you choose to become a mercenary straight away, you won't get very far, because it's likely you'll come across enemies that are just too powerful for you to defeat. Whereas if you take a military career, you may have been given a ship which is better than your Cobra Mark III. You may be sent on easy missions whilst you build up your reputation in the military and ultimately progress up your rankings. If you become a trader, you'll actually get the money first, so you can buy better equipment. All the same sort of decisions that you'd take place in a video game, but we'll be doing that in a book form. Make the right decisions, and you'll be able to progress the story and so on. There will be a plot. It's not going to be completely open sandbox in a book. There will be a plot, and there will be an objective that you want to try to hit. It will be scripted, so there will be a definite ending, and you'll probably want to do a little bit of all the careers, but do them in a particular order. You might want to make becoming getting a high combat rating your goal, becoming very, very rich your goal, becoming a combination of the two, or you might want to, well, I don't want to say any more because that would spoil the plot. However, hopefully that's given you the idea of how a game book works. My name is Nathaniel Page, and I'll see you for the next update. Thanks. Bye.